It's already spun up this tornado in Little Rock, Arkansas.
And there is a lot of damage around Little Rock. One of the areas hit a fire station. Look at that. You can see the roof has been blown off.
Shopping center with a Kroger grocery store also hit. Look at that. The top of the store. Ambulance is leaving with at least 2 injured people. So far, no official number of injuries there. Little Rock's mayor, with help from the governor, has requested the National Guard to come in to help with the cleanup. You are watching Wave News at 6 on an alert day. I'm John Bowl.
And I'm Myra Ansari. The severe weather risk is only going to ramp up in the next couple of hours. And we want to get to Chief Meteorologist Kevin Harnett, who's tracking the very latest. Kevin.
Yeah, we're watching it. Folks at the Emergency Command in Frankfurt are watching it as well. The governor's already issued a state of emergency preemptively as these storms approach. It's not a guarantee that everybody's going to get severe weather. In fact, I'll say not everybody's going to get severe weather, but the chances there, especially along and west of I-65, we have to be paying attention to that area. The skies are cloudy for the most part. We have the alert day that's been in place for several days to say, hey, we have to watch the time frame. Now we're narrowing it down. We went from pointing it out days in advance to now what hours do we need to watch between 9 p.m. and 2 a.m. The biggest threat to us is the wind. Very strong winds just above the surface. We'll pull those down with some thunderstorms, and that can cause some straight line winds, which could be problematic. We're talking wind speeds 70, 80 miles an hour and some of the stronger straight line winds. And with the shear that we have going on in the atmosphere, the threat of isolated tornadoes exists. And that's what we've been seeing today already. The storms will be weakening as they move through our area, and that's good news. Now, when we look at the timing, you can see, first of all, the enhanced risk area, moderate risk area to the north, between 9 p.m. and 2 a.m. is sort of that window of time we're watching, pointing out that wind is the biggest threat. We do have rain on the radar with lightning pushing into southern Indiana. This is moving through Jefferson County, Jennings County, Ripley County. That's going to move out of the area and approach Cincinnati. We'll spend some dry time through the early evening before this line of storms with a number of severe thunderstorm warnings and tornado warnings arrive closer to us by mid-evening. They're moving fairly fast. It's rare to have two. It's rare to have one high-risk area, much less 2. In fact, it's been 2 years since we've had a high-risk zone. We have that out to our west today. That's where the atmosphere really is primed for severe weather. Our chances for showers and thunderstorms increasing mid to late evening. We'll be watching the radar for you. We'll be here to give you any updates. We'll talk about another alert day coming our way next week and the 10-day earliest alert in just a few.
All right, thanks so much, Kevin. And since the storms are expected to hit our area late tonight, now is the time to download the Wave 3 weather app if you don't have it already. And that way, you'll get alerts when any watches or warnings are issued.
A lawsuit's been filed by the family of a teen after he was accidentally shot by an LMPD officer last month. The suit names Brendan Kaiser, LMPD, and Metro government. The shooting happened at a West Louisville abandoned garage on February 20th after officers were called for possible break-in. A group of teens ran out of the garage, and that's when LMPD says Kaiser's gun accidentally fired. Wave News reporter Brandon Spencer joins us now to tell us more about this lawsuit.
Well, the lawsuit by Sam Aguiar, injury lawyers, calls Officer Kaiser's actions unjustified, unreasonable, intentional, and reckless, and says the teenagers pose no threat to the officers. Now, this personal injury and civil rights action suit was made on behalf of a 16-year-old struck by Officer Kaiser's bullet. The juvenile is among the teens seen here running out of this abandoned garage last month. The suit claims that Kaiser didn't announce himself or take action to identify himself as police presence, and that his actions preventing the garage from closing scared the teens into running. It says the teens were unarmed and didn't pose a threat to Kaiser as he approached them with his weapon drawn. But in the press conference last month discussing the event, LMPD explains Officer Kaiser's approach.
So going to a possible break-in progress that was dispatched on the garage with a possible stolen car involved, and the officers were able to determine pretty quickly, it appears that there were multiple suspects still on scene. And so that is fairly standard on a break-in progress of that nature to have a weapon prepared in that situation.
The lawsuit has 2 counts against Kaiser for excessive force in violation of the Fourth Amendment and battery, and then 3 counts against LMPD for creating an alleged custom of tolerance to excessive force against citizens, inadequate training or supervision for officers, and ratification for the excessive use of force based on the findings in the DOJ report. Now, I reached out to LMPD for a comment, and they responded with, LMPD cannot comment on pending litigation. Brandon Spencer, Wave News.
Thank you, Brandon. A historic day in Frankfurt as Governor Andy Beshear signed medical marijuana and sports betting bills into law. And this morning, Beshear celebrated with Republican sponsors of both bills, which squawked through the legislature in the final hours of this year's legislative session. And Senate Bill 47 allows medical cannabis to be prescribed for a list of conditions, but bans smokable cannabis products.
Bill 47 is probably one of the most vetted bills in the history of the General Assembly.
I'm filled with emotion. There are, Governor, as you know, thousands and thousands of Kentuckians who just want to be and want to feel better. And this will help them with that.
And this new medical marijuana law won't fully take effect until 2025. It also differs from the program Governor Andy Beshear created by executive order earlier this year. Wave News reporter Mark Stevens explains some of the big differences in this new law. Mark.
Access to the drug is the biggest difference. Right now, patients can only buy medical marijuana out of state. This law will change that.
Not feasible for folks to be driving hours outside the state to access their medicine. Don't do that for any other type of medication.
Darby Cook owns the Kentucky Cannabis Clinic, which connects patients to state-licensed doctors who will recommend marijuana. The number of qualifying medical conditions in the law is fewer than Beshear's executive order, but Cook says it's a good start.
The bill does include chronic pain, and that's usually the most common reason why folks are trying to use medical marijuana.
The state now needs to implement the law. Key sponsor Jason Nemes says that's why the law doesn't start until 2025.
So we got to put the regulations in place, and then the businesses will apply. Everyone will get licensed. We have to get product that's grown in Kentucky, in Kentucky soil.
Qualified patients will be allowed to have a 30-day supply in their home and will be allowed to carry a 10-day supply with them. Rules around licenses will need to be hashed out over the next year and a half.
Make sure we get it right, but make sure we get it done.
The law does not limit the number of cultivators and dispensaries, but we don't know yet how difficult the state will make it for businesses to get those licenses. Cook says Kentucky has a lot of examples to look at.
Kentucky is lucky in one regard where they've got to watch, 30 plus other states implement, either medical marijuana or adult use marijuana programs. So they have a lot of experience and a lot of evidence that they can draw upon.
Now, Kentucky will not allow medical marijuana patients to smoke the drug. Lawmakers believe that was a step too close to allowing recreational use. Mark Stevens, Wave News.
Well, the governor says the state's going to get millions of dollars in extra tax revenue thanks to the new sports betting law. It allows Kentuckians to bet on college and pro sports. People will have to make wagers using a sports betting app or by going to a horse track-owned facility in Kentucky. The Horse Racing Commission will regulate the operations. Governor Beshear says this stops money from traveling across state lines.
This has become a norm. Here in Louisville, you can go right across the river, and there's a casino right there. You can go to the tracks already and bet on horse racing. It's become more of a norm in our society that people can handle, and most people don't bet too much.
Sports betting law will go into effect in late June.
Well, for people who have had COVID, one of the lingering problems can be what many call brain fog. A patient is left with an impaired ability to concentrate or remember things. But Wave News reporter David Mattingly finds some are getting help and recovering.
And we're also finding, Myra, that for every person who gets help, there could be many more who need it. Doctors have learned that even mild cases of COVID can produce inflammation that affects the brain. It can leave patients in a brain fog, unable to multitask, think quickly or clearly. And as more people learn about possible treatments, they are getting help. At Norton Healthcare, patients are going from feeling hopeless to feeling normal.
I think the biggest thing that we're seeing is the more education and awareness that is coming from this diagnosis of brain fog, and that there is something that can be done to help with the brain fog, that's why we're seeing more patients. Some of these patients just feel like they're kind of crazy that all of this is happening, and so they're not getting the help that they need.
Healthcare professionals.
That help can include exercises like you see right here. This actually helps people regain the ability to concentrate and recall words. Now, recovery is different for everyone, but some can see improvement in a matter of weeks. David Mattingly, Wave News.
All right, thank you so much, David. Still to come here on Wave News at 6. And LMPD officers about to hit the streets. Hear what they have to say about serving the community.
Celebrating a milestone in a barrel. How a local distiller reached a historic achievement today.
Oh, we're watching the radar out to our west with a string of severe weather, including tornado warnings. We've already seen the damage. These storms are moving in our direction. Question now is, when will they begin to weaken? I'll take a best guess at that and give you a look to the 10-day earliest alert. More alert days next week when we come back.